Hello there, and I'm gonna do another my experience with the microphone video. And if you want to jump around, you don't have the patience to listen to everything, you can check the comments below because I'm going to be creating chapters in there so that you can click on the different topics that I address in this video as I go along if you only want to see a certain part. So today we're going to talk about the Beyerdynamic MC930 microphone, an SDC or small diaphragm condenser microphone. I've had this mic for probably around 3 years now, and ever since I got it, it's been my main microphone for acoustic guitar. And I use it sometimes for ukuleles too, and I've experimented with it on many different things as well. Many people use it for drum overheads. So I think I'll get to my uses of it and how I feel about it on different instruments a bit later, but just to describe the microphone itself, as I said, it's a small diaphragm condenser, meaning that its diaphragm, which is the part here that picks up the sound, is 1/2 inch in diameter, and we have a couple switches here. It has a pad switch, a pad that'll take you down 15 decibels, and it has a high pass filter switch. Now the high pass filter on this microphone, if I remember correctly, has a 6 decibel slope, so a very gentle slope, and its point of reference is 250 hertz, which sounds high, but actually, since the slope is quite gentle, I find it really nice on acoustic guitars. I've experimented because I have various high pass filters on my preamps and with different settings, and in the end I've basically settled with just using the high pass filter on this mic. It works really great for almost anything. If you really want the acoustic guitar to carry the bass of your track, you might leave it off, but honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost always on. Particularly because, and now I'll get to the sonic characteristics of this microphone, particularly because this microphone, as far as compared to other small diaphragm condensers, one of its particularities is it has very prominent lower mids, which is, around 250 hertz really, in fact. That's why cutting there can be kind of nice. Even if you use a high pass filter, it gives a certain thickness in the lower mids that a lot of other small condenser microphones don't have. It does have a little bit of air up top, not a huge amount. It's not an extremely bright microphone, and personally I'm a little bit allergic to microphones that are overly bright. I prefer personally to take microphones that are more neutral and then to boost the highs a bit in the mix if I see fit to do that. I know there are lots of people out there who have a different point of view and really like really bright microphones. So, it's up to you to decide which side of the fence you're on. But as somebody who doesn't really like extremely bright microphones or extremely bright mixes, this microphone is perfect for me. It is not neutral. It does, if you look at the frequency response on the internet, it does have a treble boost, as almost all of them do. And if you actually get a microphone that doesn't have a boost in the treble region, then you'll probably find it too dull. But this one is a nice compromise for me. It sounds pretty neutral, but actually it does have a certain amount of air, meaning a treble boost starting up at around I forget what it is exactly, but 5-6 kilohertz. So those are the main characteristics of the microphone. Like I said, it has more prominent lower mids than most SDCs, and it has a very moderate air boost in the upper frequency range, which for me is really nice. In fact, it's a nice compromise. I picked this microphone after doing a lot of listening on the internet, and I've been really quite happy with it. So in the mix, again, I use it principally for acoustic guitar, and in the mix I really appreciate it because it gets my acoustic instruments noticed, but they don't steal the show. They don't steal the show from the vocal, which of course can happen if you have an extremely bright mic on your acoustic guitar and then you have a mic that's not as bright on your vocals, for example, or on your lead instrument. So I've kind of paired my microphones together over time because as you mix, you'll see that you want them to go together. You want them to work together. You don't want to have an extremely bright lead vocal microphone and then an extremely dull acoustic guitar microphone either. You need to experiment with different microphones. These days it's easy to order a mic and then send it back if you don't appreciate it. So I would encourage you to do that if you're uncertain. And also to help you decide, what your likes and dislikes are in terms of brightness or more neutral type microphone. But anyway, as an example, for condenser microphones on lead vocals, I often use the Mojave MA 201 FET microphone, which is it has a similar characteristic in some ways in terms of frequency response to this microphone. And so I find they pair well in terms of the Mojave being on lead vocals and this Beyerdynamic being on acoustic guitar. So there's another piece of information for you if you're looking, because both of them have a bit of a treble boost, but it's not excessive. It doesn't ever get harsh. It doesn't ever get extremely bright, at least in my experience. So let's get now to how this microphone is on different instruments that I've tried it on. Now, one thing about having a lower mid boost that can perhaps be a disadvantage, depending on how you use this microphone, is that it makes it more difficult to use on bass instruments because the bass just gets overbearing. If you put on the high pass filter, obviously there's no point in putting it on a bass instrument because you're cutting out a lot of the bass. Because the fundamental notes of real bass instruments like bass guitar or a bass synth or a kick drum or whatever, live between 60 hertz, 100 hertz, maybe 150 hertz at most. So with a high pass filter at 250 hertz, that's cutting out most of it. But on the other hand, if you don't put the high pass filter on, the bass just gets really kind of out of control. So I have seen some people use certain small diaphragm condensers on acoustic bass, but this microphone is not really so good for that because of the prominent lower mids that it has. In my experience, the bass, if you use this to record a bass instrument, it gets overbearing. So my experience with that hasn't been very good. My experience is using this as an overhead mic for when I record cajon. I don't have a drum set. I've never recorded a drum set, so I'll just tell you straight out. So I can't tell you about how it is as an overhead microphone to record a drum set. But I do record my cajon from time to time, and I have experimented with multiple mic setups, a mic on the front, mic on the back, and then an overhead mic, that sort of thing. This mic is not good as a close mic in that context, that's for sure. It does work reasonably well as an overhead mic. So to me, in that context, in my experience, it's kind of average. Sometimes, depending on the sound I'm looking for, I pull it out, and again, I'll usually put some kind of high-pass filter on it in that situation, whether it's the mic's high-pass filter or a little bit lower high-pass filter on one of my preamps, depending on how much bass I want in that overhead signal. So there we've covered bass instruments, and we've covered the limited use that I have it on overhead percussion use. After that, let's talk about vocals, because some people claim that using small diaphragm condensers on vocals can be nice. I do have to say right here that my experience with small diaphragm condensers is a bit limited. This is my main SDC, and then I did get at one point, unfortunately, the Rode M3, which I never use because it doesn't compare to this Beyerdynamic at all, and of course the prices are certainly different. So that's a disclaimer about using SDCs on vocals in general, but in terms of this mic specifically, I've experimented with it on vocals, and it's just too weird. It's too weird, even if you use a high-pass filter, whatever you do. The way the bass of the microphone jumps out at you in a really weird way that we're not used to hearing on vocals, it just doesn't do it. And also, vocals are usually recorded fairly close up, especially lead vocals, and like I said, in a lot of situations this microphone doesn't do that well that close up. There's an exception to that, which I'm getting to. So we went through all the uses that I've experimented with this microphone and that didn't really work out for me, and now we'll finally get to my main use for this microphone, which, like I said, is acoustic guitars. And here this microphone really shines. I love it on acoustic guitars. I have a couple large diaphragm microphones, and I've tried them all on acoustic guitars as well. But to me, nothing else that I have beats this microphone on acoustic guitar, so I almost always use it when I record an acoustic guitar track. When I do use my LDCs, I know some people like LDCs on acoustic guitar. I think particularly for lead guitar, an LDC can be nice, a large diaphragm condenser. But most of what I record is rhythm tracks, and for rhythm tracks, this is my go-to mic for acoustic guitar. It creates a very nice presence in the mix. I actually do tend to record with this microphone pretty close up on the acoustic guitar, pretty close to the 12th fret, sometimes a little bit more towards the body, depending on the sound I'm looking for. I just about always engage the high-pass filter on this mic, as I told you before, and it just creates a really great contrast because, as I alluded to before, large diaphragm condensers and small diaphragm condensers have a different way of capturing the dynamics of different frequencies. So I find it's really great when I have a track where the main rhythm instrument is an acoustic guitar and the main melody is the lead vocal, to put the vocal on a large diaphragm condenser And the acoustic guitar on a small diaphragm condenser, it really helps separate the two. Whereas if you were to use, like for example, the same mic on both the acoustic guitar and on the lead vocal, and then use the same preamp chain and all that, you get much less separation in the mix between the two. So all you out there that have only one input chain and whatever, I'm not trying to discourage you. Keep going, keep doing it. I was there at one point too. But on the other hand, if you are able to invest in, a second preamp, I have two different outboard preamps, and you are able to invest in an SDC and an LDC, it really helps in terms of separation of, say, an acoustic guitar and a lead vocal, or an acoustic guitar and a lead guitar. Often when I record a lead guitar, I'll use my lead vocal chain in order to separate it, get more separation in the mix from the rhythm instrument. Whereas if I want the lead guitar to be more of a background thing while there's a lead vocal going on, then I'll often use the same chain as I use for the rhythm guitar. So I got off on a little tangent there, but for some of you out there that might be interesting. If, like I said, you're just starting out and you only have one audio interface and one microphone, for example, it might give you some motivation to try different mics, or pick up, a second mic or whatever. So I think I covered all that I want to cover here on this microphone. So I'm going to try to sum it up. It's a great microphone, a great small diaphragm condenser microphone. I'm not looking for another one at this point. It's perfect for my uses compared to my other microphones in terms of, the level of brightness that they have, so that they meld together nicely in the mix. And it's just in a great acoustic guitar mic. Also, I'll mention this at this point. Recently I got a ukulele, and so I use this microphone often on the ukulele too, especially if it's a rhythm track again, where it would have the same place in the mix as my acoustic guitar would. In terms of applications too, obviously with a pad you could try it on miking an electric guitar, or miking an electric bass amp. I've tried those things, and to me they don't work at all. I mean, what I'm trying to say, of course it works, and I'm sure you could make it work. It's just that compared to the other options I have, it's not favorable. Actually, I'm in the process of, I requested, it's been over a year now that I requested from Beyerdynamic to try to find a pair for this microphone, because they have a service where they'll try to find you, they'll try to find a match for this mic as if you had bought a matching pair in the beginning. And I've been waiting for almost a year and a half now, and once in a while I'll pop up and say, hey, are you still working on my matching pair? And they'll say, yeah, we're still working on it. And then nothing. So maybe I should have bought a matching pair. I don't know. It would be nice to experiment with that. We'll see if one day the Beyerdynamic comes through with that matching pair for me, but I'm not holding my breath at this point. It's been quite a while. So for those of you that may be interested in that option, it exists, but at the same time, will they ever deliver on it? That's a good question. Alright, so thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed and you like these videos, then please subscribe to my channel, Jeffrey Schmidt Music. And I'll continue uploading videos that are oriented towards, you know, the home studio musician that's trying to get together some gear in order to make some really awesome recordings. Have a great day. Bye-bye.